takes up this issue with the US administration as to why the Indians, even though they were illegal immigrants into the United States of America, why were they deported back like animals? US Army's aircraft was used to deport them back. It could have been a civilian aircraft as well. Nonetheless, we are Indians. We have the habit of tolerating the disrespect. So with this, let's begin with the news analysis. RBI slashes rates by repo rate by 0.25%. The inflation is not of concern even if it is above 5% for consecutive months since October 2024. So inflation has been sidelined and growth has been given higher weightage by the new RBI governor Sanjay Malhotra. We are going to see more on this. What is MCLR, marginal cost of lending rate, then earlier regime of base rate. In order for better monetary transmission, the RBI had adopted MCLR long back. So in this light of this repo rate policy, the new monetary policy, this biennial meeting outcome of RBI, latest monetary policy and outcome of the RBI, we are going to see MCLR and base rate regime. What was it? Now this is the editorial, growth over inflation. Growth has been given more weightage over the inflation by Reserve Bank of India. I hope audio and video, everything is clear, guys. I mean, this biennial meeting outcome of RBI, even though the voice quality is not as good as the previous mic, but still it is manageable. We can make do with it. All right. Was there any problem in the initial leg? I think everything is working fine. Brightness is high. Okay. So to some extent I can reduce the brightness by switching off the lights. Now moving further, a surge of Dead Sea turtles. These are the editorials. India's voice must be heard in global AI awareness. This is what Shashi Tharoor writes, but for today we are going to skip out on this. Then other news articles. Did Tamil Nadu governor refer 10 bills to president to avoid the signatures? Article 200 gives 3 options to the governor. Either sign on the bill, withhold the signature, return the bill to the assembly. But governor was sitting over the bills. Yesterday also we saw this issue as to why in the opposition ruled states governors have been sitting over the bills, be it Tamil Nadu or Kerala. Now when the Tamil Nadu government submitted before the Supreme Court that in a hush-hush manner the Tamil Nadu governor sent the bills to the president so that he need not sign the bills which seek to amend the provisions regarding the chancellor of universities. Those chancellors are usually the governors. In the state universities, governors are appointed the chancellors. But Tamil Nadu government sought to end this regime of governors acting as the chancellors in these bills. Now the governor has been sitting over the bills. This matter here, we are going to deal with it as to when can the governor, in what circumstances can the governor reserve the bills for the president's consideration. Article 200 gives the option to the governor, but under what circumstances? Number 1, if the powers of the state high court are being abridged, if the powers of the state high court are being compromised with. Number 1. Number 2, if the state legislative assembly has encroached upon the union parliament's domain by enacting a bill, enacting a law that is on the entry given in the union list. Third circumstance where the governor can reserve the bill could be when on a concurrent list, a matter given in the concurrent list, a law has already been passed by the union government, union parliament, and the state parliament, state legislature now passes a law to the effect that the union parliament's law comes into conflict with the state law. If the union parliament has passed POCSO Act, Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act, now the state government also passes the same act, okay, later afterwards, and in the state government, state legislative assembly act, the provisions are different from the provisions of union law. Then the governor can reserve the bill for the president's consideration. But in in this matter, only the entry is concurrent list. Entry of higher education is in the concurrent list. Mere existence of entry in the concurrent list, can that be a circumstance where governor can reserve the duly passed bill, otherwise which is legally valid? The bill otherwise was passed through the procedure due procedure of state legislative assembly. Why that bill was sent to the president, that too after 3 years of delay, after 3 years of sitting over it. R.N. Ravi sir, let me tell you his past also. He has been an advisor to Ministry of Home Affairs. Before that he was an IPS officer, and before that he headed a committee which suggested the sealing of Myanmar India border, Bangladesh India border. Okay, an internal committee to secure India and Bangladesh's border. So an IPS officer, ironclad officer with a strict image. Earlier he had raked up controversies when he was the governor in one of the northeastern states of India. He was also not accepted in Nagaland. Okay, he fell out with the NSCN, National Socialist Council of Nagaland. Perhaps we should not go into the credentials of the governor. It is actually the scenario that all the governors in the opposition ruled states are behaving in a manner that they are the agents of the center. Now coming to another small news, cabinet clears income tax bill. What is this income tax bill? Why income tax bill? We already have an Income Tax Act 1961. Ask your parents while they are happy about the budget announcements, what is happening? Section 10A, keep on writing A, B, C. The Act 1961, Income Tax Act, it has become so complicated over the years that Section 80C, C, D. Okay, sometimes it becomes cafe coffee day, right? So many sub-clauses, subsections have been added to it that it becomes very tedious, even as the income tax form's name is Saral, but it is not quite Saral or easy to file the income tax return yourself. You have to hire a chartered accountant or you have to go to an income tax advisor. Shell out 1,000 rupees, 1,500, 2,000 rupees if your income tax return is simple. And otherwise also, any companies which are coming to India, any corporates, any big companies, micro, small, medium enterprises also, they face a lot of issues while perusing through the archaic Income Tax Act. It was in this regard that in 2010, the government had for the first time come out with the idea of direct taxes code. Like we have CRPC, IPC, Indian Penal Code, now they are being replaced by Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Similarly, we should have income tax code, income tax bill, a neat and clean bill which subsumes all the amendments brought about over a period of years, so that it becomes easy to comply with. It becomes easy to read which exemption is there in which section, and all the provisions that have been deleted over the years that no longer exist in that can be omitted, can be cleansed from the new law. Okay, so this was the purpose. In this regard, another body that we should remember is Financial Sector Legislative Reforms Commission, FSLRC, Financial Sector Legislative Reforms Commission. The agenda before the government is, we sometimes talk about LPG reforms 2.0. LPG reforms 1.0 were brought about by Manmohan Singh government. Liberalization, privatization and globalization reforms are required now, and one of these reforms could be to streamline the functioning of all the financial sector regulators, RBI, SEBI, Insurance Regulatory Development Authority of India. There are so many the financial sector regulators. It was in this regard that FSLRC was given this mandate to reform this income tax bill, was one of the agendas. Second was to streamline the functioning of regulatory bodies operating in the financial sector, so that it becomes easy and the chinks in the gaps that are there in the financial sector regulation could be plugged by this new reforms commission, which gave its report in 2012-13. Some of its recommendations have been incorporated, have been implemented. Now these are the things. Now coming back, these are the news articles. Another interesting news article we'll head towards. PDF you can download from this Telegram channel, Jatin Verma sir, PW only IAS. The link of this Telegram channel is given in the description box. Let's move further now. Coming to this, private bill seeks sitting of parliament for at least 100 days. What is a private member's bill? Any bill which is introduced by or sought to be introduced by a non-minister. Any bill which is introduced by the minister becomes government bill. But a bill which is introduced by a member of parliament, be it in Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, that bill is called private member's bill. The member of parliament can be from ruling political party BJP also, or any other ruling political party of NDA. But he should be a non-minister. He or she should be a non-minister. Now, another condition for introduction of private members bill is that it should be given after 1 month's notice to the speaker or the chair. Okay. So here Manoj Kumar Jha and Derek O'Brien, the senior leaders of their respective political parties. Manoj Kumar Jha belongs to Lalu Prasad Yadav's political party RJD. Okay, and Derek O'Brien belongs to Trinamool Congress of Mamata Banerjee. So another condition is 1 month's notice to introduce such a bill is to be given to the chair of the house, chairperson Rajya Sabha in case of Rajya Sabha, or speaker Lok Sabha in case of Lok Sabha. Then only the private members bill could be introduced. So Manoj Kumar Jha, otherwise a very popular member of parliament, known for his evocative speeches and provocative remarks in the parliament. Okay, so what did he say? He said that parliament's productivity is going down thanks to disruptions. Number 2, government's dominance. Please understand this issue in its right earnest, in its detail. What is happening is Article 85 says that Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs will advise the President as to when to convene the session of the Parliament, when the session of the Parliament will be held. Sometimes it has so happened, considering the ruling political party, be it BJP or Congress, considering their fortunes in elections in Gujarat or in other states, if the state legislative assembly elections are happening, elections are postponed so as to avoid the discussion on matters on which the government could be grilled. Government could be in the radar of suspicion, etc. Demonetization happened. Government was facing tough questions after 1 year of demonetization. But the December session, the winter session, was so postponed so as to avoid the discussion until the Gujarat Legislative Assembly elections are over. These kind of things are happening, because of which I have written this punchline here. We are a parliamentary form of government, theoretically. But are we becoming the governmental form of parliament? You know, when you are writing exams, UPSC has come out with a notification this time around. Notification is not in shape this year. I mean, the way of filling up the form is quite tricky. I mean, OBC certificate, etc. We'll talk about that in 5 minutes, last 5 minutes of this class today. Why Pooja Khedkar controversy has led to harassment of 12 lakh UPSC applicants this year. We'll talk about that also. Okay. Now the problem is the parliamentary form of government has it become the governmental form of parliament? Government is calling the shots. It is only the government's bill which see the light of the day. Article 85 is partly responsible for it. When 10th standard students already know when their exams are going to happen, when the calendar of year is published well in advance, carrying the holidays for government employees, carrying the list of holidays for school children, when is Holi, Diwali, Lohri, all the holidays are very clearly defined. Why the calendar of parliamentary sessions, their holidays are not decided well in advance? To suit the convenience for the ruling political party. Government will decide when the parliament session will happen. That is what makes me write here. Is it parliamentary form of government or is it governmental form of parliament? Where government rules the roost. Government is calling the shots. Government is all dominant. Speaker is of government. When the parliamentary session will happen, we don't know in advance. Parliamentary sessions are not even happening for 100 days in a year. Out of 365 days, parliamentarians are not meeting for 100 days in a year. Why are we paying them the salaries then? That is what brings me here. The opposition members or the private members have introduced the bill to have at least 120 days. Manoj Kumar Jha says there should be at least 1/3 of the days in a year, approximately 120 days, 360 divided by 3, 120 days should be the minimum number of days for which the parliament should meet in India, so as to discuss the affairs of railways, farmer suicides, education, NEET controversy, exam leaks, and everything happening in India. US-India relations, everything. In order for parliament to hold the government accountable, there should be, don't you think that there should be a minimum number of days for which the parliament should meet? Yes. right? They are earning 1.5 to 1.75 lakh rupees as the salary we are paying to each member of parliament, and still they are not meeting. Point is, are they going to their constituencies to hear the grievances of people? I have never seen them, right? If you have seen, let me know. So the point is this, another issue that he raises is that opposition, I'll give you an example of UK. In the UK, in the British Parliament, 20 days are reserved for opposition. 20 days are given to the opposition MPs to discuss their affairs. But in our scheme of things, in our Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, disruptions are the common way. Disruptions are the only way that opposition can raise its issues, and many opposition MPs, they get suspended from Lok Sabha. They get suspended for 7 days, 15 days, or maybe 30 days, right? So disciplinary tools are used by the speaker. Opposition MPs hardly get a chance to voice their concern. After all, they are also elected by the people, the same people who chose one party over the other party. So why those votes which have been cast for opposition MPs should go in vain, should go waste? So that is the reason that in UK 20 days are given to this thing. On the similar lines, Manoj Kumar Jha's private members bill says that we should have a dedicated number of days for opposition. Okay, only the opposition session or opposition business will be discussed separately. No government business, no government bills will be discussed during those 20-30 days in the Parliament of India. And he also proposes that whatever disruptions happen, whatever time is wasted because of disruptions, should be compensated for by having additional number of days. Just because of the deadlock between the political parties, the crucial role of the parliament, that is of fixing the accountability of government, should not be allowed to go waste. We should not lose the opportunity. There are so many reports. Parliamentary Standing Committee reports are there. Those reports are to be discussed. CAG reports are there. They are to be discussed. But the calendar, the agenda is decided by Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs in consultation with the government's own speaker. Ministry of the government, Speaker of the government, Parliament of the people. Right? What voices can we expect? So that is why the voice is getting shrunk. Voice is getting numbed over there in the parliament. Opposition is not able to raise the issues. It is the job of the opposition. Let us help the opposition do that by having this bill. Now the irony is, this bill has been brought about by a private member. Private members' bills, they have a very bleak chance, very, very low possibility of getting passed in the parliament. Let me tell you about private members' bills also. Since independence, we have been able to introduce, I'm not saying we have been able to pass, we have been able to introduce only 14 private members' bills. As I said, private members' bills are those bills which are introduced by any non-minister member of parliament. So only 14 bills. It is but obvious that why would the government allow, why would the speaker of the government allow the private members' bills to be at least introduced? Number one, it was only in 2014 that rights of transgenders bill was able to see passage in Rajya Sabha. That is the only bill that passed through one of the houses, and that bill also got repealed. I mean, it did not see the light of the day because it lapsed in Lok Sabha. It did not pass through both the houses. If it had been able to see the passage in both the houses, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, then only after president signatures it could have become a law. So no bill, no private members bill has ever been passed. 14 bills have only been introduced. Such is the state of affairs. Let me tell you another thing about private members bills, important for your prelims. Fridays is the day. Fridays are reserved for second half of the Friday after lunchtime period is reserved for private members bills. Okay, so private members bills are those bills which are introduced by non-governmental, non-ministers bills. Okay, they are introduced by anybody except the ministers of the government, right? So that is the bill. Now you can remember this line: parliamentary form of government, because of the rule of 273, because of the rule of majority, has got converted into governmental form of parliament. It is the government which will be able to pass the budget. 60% of the demands for grants out of 50 lakh crores budget, 50 lakh 65,000 crores budget, will be passed without discussion. This year also, every year this is happening. That is why I have written here, it is the parliamentary form of government or governmental form of parliament. You can jot this down. Now moving further, this is what I call as analysis. We are in the English news analysis. Facts I am highlighting side by side. Okay, for last 1 month, I would say, new platform. I have been doing the news analysis for quite some time now, 5-6 years. It took me time to come into my actual vigor, into my actual style. Now you will see more of such, intriguing statements, etc. The statements which make you think, the statements which make you analyze in the coming days of daily news analysis. Gradually we'll catch up, gradually we'll evolve, and you will also see better understanding as we proceed along the lines, these lines in the coming days also. Now, growth over inflation, over on economic expansion over inflation control. Now, RBI's new governor Sanjay Malhotra had dual dilemma. I mean, dilemma was there whether to give weightage to declining growth or whether to give more weightage to inflation. Why this kind of trade-off? Why this paradox is there in monetary policy? We in India, we are considered a country where 28%, according to various estimates, 28% of people live below poverty line. They cannot accept the increasing prices. And if monetary policy, through reduction in rate of interest, RBI reduces rate of interest, that rate of interest reduction is given to, passed on to PNB, SBI, HDFC, public sector and private sector banks included. Now when the banks lend their rates, if the rate of interest has now been reduced to 6.25%, banks would be somewhere reducing their rates from 8.5 to 8.25%. This will lead to increased supply of money in the economy. If the money supply in the economy increases, what is going to happen? Money supply increase will lead to a situation where people will have more money and same money would be chasing less goods. Will be chasing the same amount of goods, potatoes, tomatoes, onions, etc. when already the prices of food items are high in the economy. So more money in the wallet, but same goods in the vegetable market, same goods in the grocery shop, same number of goods, because production has also been declining thanks to declining GDP. Now, it takes a spine, it takes a lot of courage for any RBI governor, or a phone call or a pressure maybe. It takes something to take the risk of forsaking inflation, letting go of the inflationary concerns and thinking that this money will be borrowed for new industrial activity. This will lead to increase in the industrial activity and GDP of India will rise. Okay, so it is poor versus rich. Rich want money to be available. Industrialists, corporates, they want money to be available. Every time RBI has to juggle, RBI has to strike a fine balance, or RBI has to, deal with one or the other issues. If it would have given more weightage to inflation, more weightage to the concerns of poor people, it would have to let go of the prospects of growth. It is only hoping that growth will increase with the reduction in the rate of interest. But inflation might shoot up thanks to the global adverse economic scenario. Price wars, the tax wars, tariff wars between US, Canada, US, China, US, Russia, sanctions. So many things are there which might lead to a further increase in the inflation. Okay, so this is the crux of this editorial. With the inflation moderating to 5.2% in December, still above RBI's 4% target. In the other day's news analysis, we had seen that 2 is the lower tolerance limit, 246. It is the target given to monetary policy. Okay, inflation should not be above 6%. But you've seen that growth is already going down. It is going to be around 6.4%, right? And government has projected the growth for this year also between 6.3 to 6.8% for 2025-2026 in the budget. Now, other thing that article says is RBI Governor Sanjay Malhotra in his first policy review highlighted the challenges posed by global economic scenario. Stalled disinflation. What is disinflation? I told you disinflation is a situation where prices are going down compared to what they were. Okay, so prices were earlier 5.2. It is expected that for January the inflation data would be around 4.4%. Okay, still the disinflation, the reversal of the price rise means disinflation. The prices trying to come back to normal is disinflation, but they have got stuck at around 5%. Inflation is stuck at around 4.8 to 5%. One of the challenges for RBI governor is this: what if the inflation rate doesn't come down and more fuel in the form of reduced interest rate is added to the market? If more money supply will be there, then that adds to the risk of further inflation. Second, diminishing prospects of rate cut in the US. So since Donald Trump has come into power there, and otherwise also USA's Reserve Bank, like India's Reserve Bank of India, USA's Fed Reserve is unlikely to cut the rate. Why? Because growth is happening there. Okay, the earlier the rates were cut so as to revive the US economy. Now there are certain green shoots in the US economy. The chances of US Fed Reserve cutting the rate are less likely. Now what is going to happen if the US cuts the rate cut? That money comes to countries like India, developing countries, because we are a growing market. Our Sensex is doing better than US stock market. Then the other thing is our debt instruments, our debentures, etc., companies borrowing, the companies in India, they borrow at a higher rate, because of which the USA's foreign institutional investors, USA's life insurance corporation type of a company, USA's pension funds would invest their money at a higher rate of interest in India. But if US is not going to cut rate, where will the money come from in India? Additional money may not come. That additional money would have led to what? Would have led to decline in the pace of depreciation of rupee at least, or would have stopped the depreciation of rupee, which is another challenge for RBI governor at this point in time. A stronger dollar pressuring emerging markets and their currencies, including the rupee. So second point would have led to third one being better for India. We would have been able to manage the rupee slide, because if these dollars from USA would have come to India, our RBI's forex reserves muscle would have been strong enough to manage the slide in the India's rupee. This is one thing. These factors have complicated policy trade-offs. What is the trade-off? Whether to give more weightage to growth or more weightage to inflation. So sometimes RBI governors have to take the risk here. Now, assumptions. Favorable food. What are the assumptions on which hinges this policy rate cut? On what basis, on what assumptions has the RBI cut the rate? Assumptions are there will be a good monsoon leading to bumper crops, bumper harvest of wheat, rice and other crops. Then key vegetable prices would go down. That means food inflation, which is of major concern to RBI, would go down. So here I have incorporated the formula or the definition of core inflation. What is core inflation? Core inflation means the inflation or the price rise in those items whose prices are relatively stable. That means we need to subtract the prices of volatile items like crude oil and vegetables, whose prices are crude oil, vegetables. Prices of such items are highly volatile. They keep on fluctuating, going up, going down, going up, going down, thereby jacking up or giving volatility to the headline inflation. Okay, consumer price inflation data, the retail inflation data is called headline inflation, the number which is printed in the headlines of the newspapers. If we want to get the overall idea, the broad idea of inflation, RBI wants to get that, then RBI goes by core inflation, subtracting prices of the volatile items from the overall inflation number, overall inflation percentage. Okay, is it clear to everyone? So this is how RBI arrives at a number. Now, Growth more important than inflation. RBI has given weightage to growth. And another thing is budget and monetary policy and fiscal policy seem to be working hand in hand. In the fiscal policy also, government by cutting the tax rates has tried to revive the consumer sentiment because consumption demand is going down. And RBI by giving more money, by reducing the interest rates, is working in tandem, is working in sync with the fiscal policy. So fiscal policy and monetary policy, it is often said in the textbooks, should work hand in hand, should work in tandem. If the fiscal policy is spending more money and RBI also releases more money, then there is going to be inflation. That is another problem, even though they are working in sync with each other. Okay, so both should counterbalance. Now that RBI has reduced the interest rate, it is going to be beneficial for Government of India, that Government of India will be able to borrow money at a cheaper rate of interest, because rate of interest has been reduced by RBI. So that is another concern leading to crowding out of investment. Okay, so these things are there. Now coming to this same news article is there. The only thing is we are going to discuss this MCLR, marginal cost of lending rate, and base rate. Earlier till 2010-12, okay, RBI was using this till 2016. Before that it was BPLR, basic prime lending rate. Then in 2010 came base rate. What is the idea behind changing these rate regimes? Idea is better monetary transmission. Even though, for example, this time RBI has reduced the rate of interest from 6.5 to 6.25%. But are these rates going to be transmitted to the end borrower by SBI, by other banks in the system? Answer was earlier in this regime, answer used to be no. Why? Because these rates were the way the banks determined their cost of funds, the way the banks determined their rate of interest to be charged from the consumer, to be charged from the borrower, used to be opaque, used to be non-transparent. Now, from 2016 onwards, marginal cost of funds based lending rate has been introduced. What is the advantage of MCLR? It divides the components of interest rate in this manner, so that everything is clearly visible as to on what basis is SBI or PNB or RBI charging, or ICICI charging 8.5% when the money borrowed from RBI is available at 6.25% now. Okay, when they are borrowing money from RBI at 6.25%, why are they charging 8.5%? Because banks have to add their cost of funds, the rate at which they are borrowing from the customers, from fixed depositors. If I deposit the money with the bank at fixed deposit rate of 7.25%, to that will be added tenor premium, the tenure, then the operating expenses. Banks hire their employees, they pay the rental for their branches, air conditioners, so much of operating expenses there. For that, another 0.5% is added. Now see here, the transparency is much better than this one. Okay, here marginal cost of funds is there. Every source of funds needs to be highlighted over here. It needs to be separately told to or informed to RBI, so that there is transparency in the transmission. In these rates, what was happening is banks were charging lower rate of interest from Ambani's, Adani's and Vijay Mallya's, but they were charging higher rate from the retail consumers who wants to borrow loan for a Hyundai Santro or Maruti Swift car. The retail borrowers, the poor borrowers, I would say. Okay, for them the tenor premium or the rate of interest used to be higher, which is why RBI said you need to come out with the detailed cost of borrowing, that is marginal cost of borrowing. Okay, from 2016 for your prelims exam, please remember marginal cost of funds based lending rate is the criteria. Now coming to the other aspects, it is given in the PDF. Okay, you can download the PDF and you will get to know all the details. MCQs are also there. Now here, did Tamil Nadu governor refer 10 bills to the president to avoid signatures, to avoid appending his signs, to avoid giving approval to the bills when the matter was filed by the Tamil Nadu government before the Supreme Court, the Governor R.N. Ravi of Tamil Nadu, in a rushed manner, or rather in a hush-hush manner, in a hideous manner you can say, he referred the bills to the President for his consideration. In the beginning of the news analysis today, I told you that under what circumstances can the Governor refer the bill to the President. Number one is when the powers of the constitutional powers of the State High Court are going to be abridged by the state bill. Then the Governor is within his rights to refer the bill to the President. Otherwise, no. Second, when a matter in the concurrent list, when the state legislature is legislating upon a matter in the concurrent list, that matter has already had a law, or it has already, on that matter, a law has already been passed by Union Parliament. For example, POCSO Act 2012 was passed by Union Parliament. It says that the punishment for anybody raping or victimizing 12 years old child and 18 years old child will be the same. But Madhya Pradesh, Haryana, they passed a new law, POCSO Act, for their respective state territories, saying that anybody molesting or raping children below the age of 12 years shall attract death penalty. So you understand my point. Crime and criminal acts are given in the concurrent list. Now, on this entry, crime and criminal laws, central government, Union Parliament had already passed a law in 2012. When Madhya Pradesh was amending its law or passing the POCSO Act for the state of Madhya Pradesh, they changed the law to the extent that it was not in sync with the union law. During such circumstances, when the Union Parliamentary law is not in sync with the state legislative assembly passed law, then only the Governor can reserve the bill for the President's consideration. Okay, or if the entry, third point, if the law being made by the state legislative assembly intrudes into the arena of Union Parliament or Union list. But in Tamil Nadu's case, none of the things has happened. In Tamil Nadu bills, the bills passed by State Legislative Assembly of Tamil Nadu, no such thing has happened. Despite that, why the Governor sat over the bills for 3 years and then passed those bills and then referred those bills to the President under Article 200. The problem is in the Constitution, Article 200, that it does not carry the time limit within which the Governor has to sign the bills. Okay, the maximum time period for which the bills would be withheld is not defined. It is high time that Supreme Court puts a limit of, let's say, 3 months to 6 months for the bills to be passed or disapproved by the Governor, so that this politics around the Governor's position, politics around the State Legislative Assembly bills comes to an end. But the question is, can the Supreme Court do that? Can the Supreme Court read into the Constitution such a broad, such a strict criteria for the Governor to either pass the bill, either to approve the bill within 6 months? This time limit, putting of this time limit is very much necessary. Right? On this eve of 75 years, 76 years, Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, it would be better to have National Commission to review the working of Commission 2.0. We had the NCRWC in 1999-2000 when we completed 50 years. Now is the time to have another NCRWC and bring about the changes to anti-defection law, to the Governor's provisions, to the provisions approving or disapproving these bills are required to be incorporated into the Constitution of India. Right. So today we talked about whether our democracy is converting into governmental form of democracy, governmental form of parliamentary form of government, right? Whether that is happening, why private members are not given the chance, why there are no dedicated number of days for opposition parties to vent out their grievances, to raise their issues, why parliamentary productivity is going down every successive year. Why lesser number of bills, lesser number of discussions every successive year is happening. So we need to have a calendar of the parliamentary functioning. When a 10th standard school going child knows how many holidays will be there in June, December, etc., why can't the parliament have a dedicated calendar telling us the exact dates of monsoon session, budget session, winter session and likewise for every year? Right? When it is necessary for UPSC to have its calendar, why not have a calendar for the temple of democracy called Parliament of India, and same for every state legislative assembly. Well, the next issue is UPSC's form filling this year to tame the people like Pooja Khedkar and many other celebrities, many other toppers who have faked their disability certificates. UPSC has been harassing all the 10 to 12 lakh aspirants who are filling up the form this year. It's very tedious. Somebody gave them a very good idea to ask for all the details at the preliminary stage of application itself, the details which used to be asked during the mains examination. How good is this to put all the innocent UPSC aspirants like you to through the harassment of uploading their latest photograph, of asking for the details of service preference. Till optional it was fine. Asking the details about optional was fine. But why are you asking those details which a naive, just undergraduate or just past graduate would be required to highlight all the details? It is a good step. But how would you process? How would UPSC process so much of data? That is another question. 12 lakh odd, 10 lakh odd aspirants are being made to fill in the details, and then their login ID, their sometimes OTP is not coming, sometimes these glitches are happening that they are not able to change their basic details like email ID. Somebody, if by mistake fills up the wrong email ID or name of their parents in the OTR, they are not able to change it at a later stage. UPSC needs to apply some mind. It should be a student friendly, candidate friendly body. If you want to highlight the Pooja Khedkar type of cases, if you want to stop the misuse of Pooja Khedkar type of cases, you should rather thoroughly verify or scrutinize the details of those appearing in interview this year, rather than harassing all the 10 to 12 lakh UPSC aspirants. With this, I would like to end this analysis. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got you've added some more wrinkles to your brain, wrinkles of knowledge, analysis, parliamentary functioning, etc. Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good day, guys. Thank you.